Tonight, the Vice President prepares to lay the ground for Trump-Pence 2020 after Melania's moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the First Lady of the United States.
The unconventional RNC'S focus on faith.
We believe that each person is made by God for a purpose.
That included a presidential pardon. This as Hurricane Laura bears down on the Gulf Coast.
Right where I'm standing on the shore of Lake Charles is ground zero for this storm.
And 2 dead in Wisconsin after a violent night of protests. Plus,
Jonah, go to Nineveh.
One of the biggest Bible stories of all time is about to land in your living room. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. The president's top lieutenant takes center stage. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup. Well, on the eve of the finale, Vice President Pence headlines Day 3 of the RNC, Build America, Land of Heroes. No doubt for Republicans, Donald Trump chief among them, whose policies and leadership were celebrated last night by family and the party faithful. CBN's Ben Kennedy has the highlights and a look ahead.
Land of Opportunity was Tuesday night's theme as speakers touted President Trump's criminal justice reform, strong economy, and religious freedom.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
Day 2 of the unconventional RNC kicked off with a focus on faith.
To all houses of worship and to all people of faith, stripped of our religious freedoms and religious liberties, my Father will fight for you.
We believe that each person is made by God for a purpose.
President Trump says that's one reason he pushed for criminal justice reform as he pardoned John Ponder. Ponder, a convicted bank robber, turned his life around and found a nonprofit organization that helps former inmates.
And as I laid on that stainless steel cell, shackled by my hands and my feet, I heard God utter into my spirit, "My son, I honored what you asked me to do." He said, "Never forget the promise that you made to me."
Reverend Billy Graham's granddaughter made a surprise appearance to thank the president for his continued fight for religious freedom.
Our founders did not envision a quiet, hidden faith. They fought to ensure that the voices of faith were always welcomed, not silenced, not bullied.
Nicholas Sandman says he was bullied by news outlets for their coverage of a confrontation between him and a Native American man at the Lincoln Memorial. Abby Johnson pushed back on Planned Parenthood and quit as a clinic director to become one of America's most outspoken pro-life activists.
I've been the perpetrator to these babies, to these women. And I now support President Trump because he has done more for the unborn than any other president.
I hereby declare an oath.
Trump hosted a naturalization ceremony for 5 people to highlight legal immigration.
You followed the rules, you obeyed the laws, you learned your history, embraced our values, and proved yourselves to be men and women of the highest integrity. It's not so easy. You went through a lot. And we appreciate you being here with us today.
And Secretary of State Mike Pompeo broke tradition with a personal convention appearance from Jerusalem.
The President, too, moved the U.S. Embassy to this very city of God, Jerusalem, the rightful capital of the Jewish homeland. And just 2 weeks ago, the President brokered a historic peace deal between Israel and the United Arab Emirates.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the First Lady of the United States.
First Lady Melania Trump wrapped up the night from the renovated Rose Garden.
The past 3.5 years have been unforgettable. There are no words to describe how honored, humbled, and fortunate I am to serve our nation as your First Lady.
In addition to expressing compassion for COVID victims and calling for greater attention to opioid addiction, she spoke on racial division and the spike in violence nationwide.
I also ask people to stop the violence and looting being done in the name of justice, and never make assumptions based on the color of a person's skin.
And looking ahead, Vice President Mike Pence will headline Night 3 of the RNC convention alongside advisor and former campaign manager Kellyanne Conway, who helped Trump win the White House back in 2016. Ben Kennedy, CBN News.
Thanks, Ben. Tonight, President Trump is sending federal law enforcement to assist the National Guard in Kenosha, Wisconsin, a city rocked by violent protests. This as a 17-year-old from Illinois has been arrested in connection to last night's deadly shooting there. Initially, Sheriff David Beth indicated there had been some confusion whether armed vigilantes patrolling the streets were responsible for the shooting that killed 2 and left another wounded. Gunfire reportedly began when protesters clashed with armed men protecting a gas station. The situation quickly turned chaotic. It marked the 3rd straight night of violence in Kenosha after a police officer shot Jacob Blake, a black man, 7 times in the back. Blake's family attorney says he's paralyzed from the waist down. His mother had a message for protesters and the police.
If Jacob knew what was going on as far as that goes, the violence and the destruction, he would be very unpleased. To all of the police officers, I'm praying for you and your families.
She also said God made people of all races, adding no one is superior to the other. Well, unsurvivable, that's the word forecasters are using to warn people about the 20-foot storm surges expected to hit parts of Texas and Louisiana. Hurricane Laura gained strength today to become a Category 4 storm, prompting the largest U.S. evacuation since the pandemic began.
I had to think, what's more important, getting away from the storm or this COVID thing, and you know, everybody's leaving.
Local authorities are bracing for winds to exceed 100 miles an hour, heavy rainfall, and a storm surge up to 13 feet. Operation Blessing is staging trucks in Tennessee ready to roll as soon as Laura hits to help people in need. To give to Operation Blessing's Disaster Relief Fund, call 1-800-700-7000 or visit cbn.com. Well, here now, CBN contributing correspondent Chuck Holton. He's in Lake Charles, Louisiana, city that is in the storm's path. Chuck, what is it like out there right now? What are you seeing, and what's expected in the coming hours?
Well, John, we've just seen the first bands, the outer bands of Hurricane Laura sweep through this area, and they were pretty violent. There was some localized flooding already. We have not seen the storm surge start to come up yet, but that is only a matter of time at this point. And right here where I'm standing, they're saying that we could get storm surge as high as 20 feet, which is really unprecedented. And so this place has turned into a ghost town in very short order. I talked to a couple of locals who said, we usually ride it out, but we're getting out of here for this one because they might call Cajuns crazy, but we're not stupid.
Chuck, you've been there on the ground since the beginning of the week. The word forecasters are using to describe that dangerous storm surge you just mentioned is unsurvivable. You just talked about some of those Cajuns there. How seriously are people taking this storm compared to past storms?
Everybody I've talked to is taking it very seriously. I talked to one friend who's said, I'm 52 years old and I've been through dozens of these hurricanes, and this is the first time that I'm really scared. He said, I'm putting my family in the car and we're going to head out of here because this is going to be different than every other hurricane. Now, every hurricane's unique. They all have a signature that they're remembered for. And I think that's what makes people kind of worried, is that they don't know what this storm is going to be remembered for, but guaranteed it's going to be something big.
How much were they affected by Hurricane Marco? I know it dissipated before making a huge impact, but was the area at all affected by Marco's either winds or rains?
Well, they did get some rain. It's already been a pretty wet year here, and for that reason, I can already see standing water around me just from this rainstorm, the squall that just came through. And that's another thing that kind of concerns everybody, is not just the amount of rain that they're going to get, which probably won't be as much as like Hurricane Hugo or Harvey. I mean, 3 years ago that came through this area because it's a faster moving storm. The thing that really worries people the most about this storm is the winds, because wind speeds of 140 miles an hour, as they're saying we might see when that comes ashore tonight, that could really cause a lot of damage.
Chuck, we only have about a minute left. There's a little bit of a double-edged sword for evacuees trying to escape this storm because there's also an ongoing coronavirus pandemic. What is your sense? Are most people willing to risk the chance of getting the virus in favor of getting out of the way of the storm?
Let me tell you something. Nobody around here is worried about a virus that has a 0.02% chance of killing you. They're worried about this storm that has a very high chance of killing you if you stay here. And I have to break this news right now. I've been on the phone with trying to corroborate this, and I've just been able to get confirmation that the governor of Louisiana has shut down almost all of the shelters. There are no shelters available for poor people in Lake Charles today. When you call 211 and ask them where to go and you say, I need someplace to go, they'll tell you to go to Baton Rouge, which is 2.5 hours away. So if you don't have a car, if you haven't gotten out by now, you may be in trouble. And that's
all right, Chuck.
The governor says he's doing it for the COVID crisis.
Even more reason to be prayerful and ask for God's intervention. Chuck, thank you so much. Stay safe out there.
All right, take care.
When we come back, fallout and heartbreak at the largest Christian university in America.
Having sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
Welcome back. Tonight, Liberty University, one of the largest evangelical universities in the country, is welcoming students as champions in the school's mission, even as it faces a major scandal. CBN's George Thomas has the story.
24 hours after Jerry Falwell Jr. resigned as president, students attending first week of classes met for Liberty University's convocation. The event, usually held in a large auditorium, was online due to COVID restrictions. Falwell's brother, Jonathan, who serves as pastor of Thomas Road Baptist Church, and acting president Jerry Prevost addressed students and staff.
Let's be honest, in the context of the day that we're in now, in the midst of uncertainty because of change within even our own campus, what does God want us to do? That uncertainty exploded over the weekend when revelations surfaced that Falwell's wife, Becky, was involved in an affair with a former business partner. Liberty's board of directors asked Falwell to step down, saying it would not be in the best interest of the university for him to remain.
Falwell will get a $10.5 million compensation package. The 58-year-old Falwell alleges that the man his wife was involved with tried to extort his family in exchange for silence. That man, Giancarlo Granda, pushed back, telling Reuters that his affair with Becky went on for 7 years and involved multiple sexual encounters, with Jerry Falwell occasionally watching. Becky Falwell, admitting the affair to the Washington Post, denied Granda's accusation about her husband. Falwell's sudden fall from grace has shaken the Liberty campus.
It's almost been like a little overwhelming.
In class, I could kind of tell that we all had this like general feeling of like scrambling and not knowing what was next.
Liberty University, founded by Falwell Jr.'s late father, the Reverend Jerry Falwell, is one of the world's largest Christian universities.
We've gotten to know the family as a student body, and we want to hope for the best, so it's just sad to hear that that's what's going on with them.
Save 71, an alumni group that's been pushing for Falwell's removal, welcomed his resignation, saying it's only the beginning. They are pushing for Liberty's Board of Trustees to surrender their authority and for an independent investigation into their activities. George Thomas, CBN News.
We know Christians around the country are praying for the Liberty community. Well, coming up, we talked to one of the primetime speakers at tonight's Republican convention. What she told us about the president, Democrats, and the COVID crisis.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the Home Front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
And welcome back. Tonight, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem is speaking out in an interview with CBN News ahead of her speech at the Republican National Convention. She discussed her renegade streak with our David Brody, highlighting a recent decision to allow mass gatherings like an annual bike rally amid the coronavirus pandemic.
What are you seeing in our culture today, Governor?
Well, there's consequences for how we talk to each other. And I think we're seeing that every day in Portland, Seattle, here in D.C., in the violence that's happening. We've dehumanized people over the years. And we frankly live in a country that is addicted to being offended. And I had a pastor years ago that said about offense that people are going to throw them out all the time, but you're the one who decides if you want to go pick it up and carry it around with you, and then you're the one with the burden. But what I've found in our culture today is people love being offended, and that is reaping havoc on our culture and our way of life in people's hearts. So I am hopeful that while we are seeing some challenges, while we're seeing things happening in America that break our hearts every day, that God will find a way to reveal a healing process that really will bring us together and help us make more progress towards loving each other and seeking after God again than we've seen in decades.
You know, the cancel culture, as you mentioned, I mean, it's out of control. The far left, even out in your state, wants to remove, what, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson on Mount Rushmore? I mean, what is your message to the far left about all of this?
Well, David, I don't know if you've heard what we're doing, but I am actually in the middle of a fundraising campaign. While the rest of the country is tearing down monuments, we are going to put 4 monument statues on our Capitol dome of the 4 men that are on Mount Rushmore, to recognize that these were incredible leaders for our country. They're flawed individuals for sure, but they met the challenges and led and based their decisions on God's word and direction. And we are going to, in South Dakota, while the rest of the country is tearing down monuments, we're going to be putting them up.
Let me turn to COVID-19. You didn't shut down the state. Many other governors have. You've been a vocal critic of some of these lockdown measures. What's your view regarding the balance between government intervention regarding public safety and constitutional rights?
I know that when you have a leader overstep their authority in a time of crisis, that's really when you lose this country. And I didn't want to be guilty of doing that. So I never issued a shelter in place. I never closed a business. I didn't even define an essential business, what would be essential and what wouldn't be, because I don't have the authority to do that. And the interesting thing is, David, is that I talked with governors on conference calls all over this country about that, and they had some of the same information that I had, yet made completely different decisions.
So that's interesting you mentioned that about other governors had that same information. Is there a suggestion in there, or an implication that, and you're not going to speak for those other governors, but that this might have been political to a degree in some other of these Democrat-run states?
Oh, definitely it is today. At the beginning of this crisis, back in March and April, I don't think it was really politically motivated, because these same Democrat governors that are on TV tearing apart the president today, months ago were singing his praises. I sat on conference calls where they were thanking him for all he was doing to help them to respond to their people. What I am saying, though, is that what I heard on those conference calls was fear. I was shocked and amazed by how fear controlled people. We have never in South Dakota focused on how many positive cases of COVID-19 that we have. What we do is we focus on how many that we have in the hospital, because that is how we take care of people. So every day when I talk to people, I say, we're going to have people catch this virus. They will. The science of the virus says we can't stop it. We're not concerned on that. What we are concerned about is, can we take care of those people that should need elevated levels of care? And right now, today, I have 53 people in the hospital. The experts, Dr. Fauci, the modeling all told me I would have up to 10,000 people in the hospital on our peak day. Today we have 53.
I do want to ask you about churches and COVID. Do you believe people of faith are under attack around the country from, there are a lot of over-the-top policies by liberal government officials, what we're seeing in California? I mean, is something nefarious going on here?
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. Yeah, they are attacking our religious freedoms. And so we need to use every tool that we have to make sure that we still have the ability to practice our faith and to gather as we see fit. And we have directly seen in many of these states where they have allowed other gatherings, yet restricted those who want to go to church and worship together.
And here now, Chief Political Analyst David Brody. David, how much of what we heard there was a preview of Kristi Noem's speech tonight?
Well, right at the beginning, that first couple minutes where she talked about the founding of our country and cancel culture and the founding fathers and Mount Rushmore and the fact that they're building statues in South Dakota, all of that is kind of emblematic of the speech. Tonight is a theme of Land of Heroes, and Kristi Noem is very proud of the fact that she comes from such a land.
David, in 2016, Vice President Pence was described as President Trump's ace in the hole when it comes to evangelical voters. He, of course, speaks tonight. Talk about how important Pence is now when it comes to evangelicals, especially now that Trump has a record of his own to stand on.
Right. Well, he's critical. I mean, look, evangelicals love Trump, and he's going to get a huge number of evangelicals to vote for him because they love the guy. But here's the thing. if Mike Pence was ever replaced by anybody else, I know they were talking about Nikki Haley and other, look, that was all just kind of goofy talk. If Mike Pence was not on this ticket, Donald Trump would see a drop in evangelical support. I'm not saying it would be a huge drop, but it would be a couple percentages or two. I think there are people that feel very, very confident and secure that Mike Pence is stapled to the hip of Donald Trump. I know a lot of people get on Mike Pence's case because he's stapled to Donald Trump's hip, but evangelicals love every minute of it. They can sleep well at night knowing that Pence is there. And
any idea of what he's going to say tonight in about 30 seconds?
Well, look, it's going to be pretty much what he's been saying all along, which is, I've been on the stump with him down in Florida, and I've seen him speak in other places. I mean, he's going to defend this president, and he's going to surmise about why it's important to elect President Donald J. Trump. I mean, Mike Pence has got it dialed up. He knows exactly what he's going to say. It's going to be pretty boilerplate, is my sense.
All right, CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody. Thanks, David, and we'll be right back.
Thanks, Sean.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
And finally tonight, an epic Bible story filmed on a 300-foot stage at a 2,000-seat venue before a live audience in Pennsylvania is about to make its debut from the comforts of your own home. The state-of-the-art theatrical production of Jonah airs Friday.
You won't stop running until you trust him here.
Sound Theaters, with locations in Lancaster, Pennsylvania and Branson, Missouri, teamed up with Trinity Broadcasting Network to bring the production to life and into people's living rooms. After canceling over 200 shows this year due to the pandemic, Sight and Sound's new streaming platform, Sight and Sound TV, aims to reach even more people with stories of hope. That's going to do it for tonight's Faith Nation. We'll see you back here tomorrow.